Well, welcome back to Cityline. And yes, Miss Lisa is getting ready over there. She's concocting some great desserts. And of course, if you're wondering where Pet of the Week is, well, hang on, because we haven't forgotten about you. With me right now is one of our favorites, as we call him, Stuart Early. You are the Executive Director of Tahoma Bird Alliance, and we're going to talk about summer is fledgling season for wonderful baby birds. So we threw up a graphic, didn't really throw it up, but we did throw it up, about baby birds and a little question about it. So let's go back to that graphic because I want to see how educated we are. So the question was, when can you touch, or if a baby bird, if this happens to a baby bird, what should you not do? If it's pink or gray and has no feathers, dragging itself or unable to move, if it's nesting, should we touch it or not? If the parents are known to be deceased or have not returned in 2 hours, it should go to a rescue center. Third option, if a baby bird is larger, covered in scruffy feathers and can hop and flutter, it's likely a fledgling. And the last option is, if the bird is healthy, leave it alone because it's in direct danger. Always wear gloves and wash your hands after touching the bird. All right, survey says, boom.
Well, after you said all that, Amanda, there's no point in me going through everything. You've covered it all already.
So is all of that right?
Almost.
Almost, okay,
yes.
Tell us.
Well, basically, you've got to differentiate between nestlings and fledglings.
Right.
And as the name suggests, nestlings are birds, baby birds that should still be in the nest.
Okay.
Fledglings are younger birds that should be outside the nest because they're learning how to fly and everything else.
Okay.
So I think we've got these
Look at this.
on screen. These are obviously nestlings. They're being fed by the parent.
Yes.
And those guys should never, ever be out the nest. If you find a nestling on the ground, it's because they've fallen out or the nest is disintegrated or a predator's about or something's happened. And birds build their nests in the most extraordinary places. We had some people bring in some baby nestlings because they'd moved their old SUV and the birds had nested in the SUV. So they had to find somewhere to look after the baby birds.
Right, absolutely. So you've shown us how we can roughly identify the difference between nestlings and fledglings. So it feels like nestlings are the most vulnerable, are they?
Absolutely. As I said, nestlings should not be outside the nest. So if they're about on the ground, something's happened. You can identify a nestling because, as you saw in that video, they look very vulnerable. They can't move much. They might have downy feathers on them.
Yeah.
If you go close to them, they won't be able to move away from you. So those guys should not be in the nest. Now, there's this great myth that you cannot touch a bird.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's all those bad National Geographic things that I saw growing up going, what do I do? Do I touch it? Do I not touch it?
Yeah, and if it's a baby bird, ideally if you've got gloves, use gloves. But if you use your hands, it won't make any real difference to the bird because birds identify each other by call, not by smell. So if you find a fledgling and you know where the nest is, if you can gently pick it up and put it back in the nest, that's great. If you can't find the nest, and birds put nests all over the place.
Yeah.
A lot of nests you'll find will be in the grass. There are a lot of ground nesting birds. So when you do your lawn, you need to watch out with a weed whacker in case you're going over a nest.
Oh my gosh, I would never have thought about that. I would have never thought to look on the ground either.
Yeah.
Because in my yard and in my backyard, nests fall out of trees, they fall, all of those places, but I don't usually look down. I look to go, where should I put you?
Yeah. So, look around. Don't automatically assume it's up somewhere higher. If you can't find the nest, make a makeshift nest. You can do that with a small basket with shredded paper.
Okay.
Put the little bird in that as close to where you found it as possible and see if the parents come back and find it.
Okay.
And the nest might be nearby and you just haven't been able to spot it.
Right. Oh, God. So Cheryl and I, our producer, our fabulous producer, we were talking about what we did growing up to help birds and to help their babies during summer. And I remember very clearly in my household, we had big sliding glass doors, and we were always concerned about the birds flying into these glass doors. We actually had some bang into our doors, and then they looked very stunned on the ground. And then we all look at that and go, what should we do? And what should we do at that moment, and how do we prevent it? So give us some ideas about what we could do first off to prevent it. And then when we hear the bang, what do we do at that point, Stuart?
Yeah, I think that you can look at things individually and also strategically, which I'll come on to later. Individually, so if you have glass sliding doors like that, if you've got blinds or a curtain or something like that, which is more visible, close that.
Okay.
Because that way the birds will see there's an obstacle and won't fly into it. When you see birds on the ground stunned like that, it's a question of what's wrong with them, and do you need to call the wildlife rescue place at all, as soon as possible? And going back to fledglings and baby birds, if there's a predator about, you might want to move the bird immediately, because you don't want a cat or anything else getting at it. If you see a stunned bird, and you can tell how injured it is because normally they'll drag a wing, it might look more bedraggled, although you need to watch out because some fledglings look as if they've gone through a car wash. They have this sort of spiky, sort of almost washed out look to them.
Yes.
And the other thing is, birds, baby birds don't always look like their parents.
Oh, let's talk about that.
Yeah, birds, I think we have a couple of slides coming up. This is, you see on the screen now,
Okay.
you've got the great blue heron
Yes.
adult, which we all know.
Right.
And I think coming up next, we'll see a young great blue heron fledgling. And as you can see, it's like a punk rocker.
It is. It's got
has
my
this-
style of hair.
We brought that one along especially for you,
Oh, I'm
Amanda.
so glad.
And it's for camouflage. You see a lot of fledglings. Birds grow very fast. So fledglings like this is still recognizable as a heron, but it has this different coloration, this spikiness to help it blend in more with the surrounding area. And I think we have another slide coming up, which is kind of robins. Now, on the left, you've got the adult robins feeding the nestlings. And on the right, you've got a fledgling,
Look
which
at that.
looks completely different. Well, not completely different, but it looks more like a varied thrush.
Well, it does, because the birds in the nest, and you have to look closely to look at the baby birds because they camouflage up with the tree.
Absolutely.
But then 5 to 6 weeks, they don't look anything like that.
No.
That's amazing.
And the fledgling could well be usually the same size as the adults. It's just its coloration is usually more camouflaged, so that it can blend in more of its surrounding because it's more vulnerable as a fledgling.
So 5 to 6 weeks, and that's what it grows into.
Yeah, birds grow very fast.
That is incredible. I mean, I wouldn't recognize that as one of my baby birds. Oh, and what's happening here?
So here we've got nestlings again. This is the northern flicker, which is quite a big bird. So nestlings, and you can see they're all fluffy. And,
Yes.
if you see something like this lying on the ground, or almost the featherless variety lying on the ground, that's when they're vulnerable, when you need to move them.
Okay.
And then I think the next slide, this is what I was talking about with ground nesting birds. This is a junco nest in a patch of tall grass.
Oh my gosh.
So you can see, again, it blends in well, it's good camouflage, but you need to really watch it when you're going around your lawn with a weed whacker.
Absolutely, and letting dogs out of the house and cats and enticing raccoons to come eat food in your yard, because those little babies are the ones that are going to get it.
Those are really vulnerable.
Yeah. Oh, look at this.
Now, this is going back to what you can do in your garden to help birds in summer, especially because it's not so much today because we've got a bit of rain.
Right.
But when we get into really hot days, which I think is Friday week, water is essential. These are siskins on a bird bath, and this is all from one house in near here. So, and then food is in abundance in summer, but if you can still keep your bird feeders full, then we can really sort of help birds and help future generations survive.
I love
and
that.
these are bush tits. on a...
Oh,
And these are like, they dive bomb. As soon as you put stuff out, they dive bomb it, and you have masses of birds all over the place.
oh, I love this.
And of course, with hummingbirds, if you put out a solution of 4 cups of water to 2 cups of sugar, you then put it in your hummingbird feeder. That's a very inexpensive way of keeping hummingbirds going throughout the summer.
I love that. Yeah, I remember you talking about containers and making sure that anything that we put out is clean, because if it's not, I mean, that transfers over to the birds.
Yep, it's essentially, if you're putting out water and other bird feeder containers, that you try and clean them at least once every 2 weeks.
Okay.
And that then, as you say, stops the transfer of disease or anything else.
Who do we need to thank? Because you do so much. You've just come off a huge name change. We are now into summer. Spring is past, and now we're going to start really diving into those fall birds. You don't do this by yourself, so who would you like to thank?
Well, we have a big team of volunteers. We have some wonderful staff, and obviously have to thank them, and also thank you, Amanda, because you invite us on here and we talk about birds, and it's great. And also to thank everyone else who puts out their water and bird feeders for the birds, because they really are saving future generations by doing that and keeping birds healthy and keeping birds fed, and so they can survive and have future generations.
I love that. Thank you for all the education and all the warmth and the love that you bring to us when you are on that comfy couch. And please give Emma my best.
I will do.
All right. Looks like we've got Das Beast over there cooking up something. I heard some giggling over there. They are getting ready to come sit on the comfy couch. And of course, we're still waiting for our beloved pet of the week. So we will be right back after this quick break.